Hello all, and welcome to my deep dive on revoking admin rights with admin by request. And before I get going, I would like to thank a particular customer for asking me to record this video. It's always good to get inspiration from customers, so thank you. You know who you are. Right then, so let's get started. Before you can manage and control admin rights, you have to revoke them. So that is a bit of an obvious statement, and revoking admin rights is something that admin by request is extremely effective at doing. However, there are a number of different ways you can revoke admin rights with admin by request, and also a number of different strategies depending on your current operational situation. So actually I had to think, and I reckon there are probably three common revocation scenarios that we can have a look at here. So the first one is what I call kind of emergency global revoke. So you've got some sort of known or developing security situation, a suspected infection, and you just need admin rights revoked from the entire organization, like right now. So that would be, the first kind of scenario that we're going to do. Then number two would be the slightly more graceful and serene selective gradual revoke. So in this situation, your threat level is low, you've got a little time to plan the revocation in such a way that it's done gradually. Maybe you want to do some reconnaissance first, so you actually get to see what users do with admin rights, build some policies, create some subsettings and user personas, and then gradually department by department or even user by user, just revoke very gradually. So it's a very kind of streamlined and kind of graceful, slow revocation, as opposed to what would potentially be like a big bang of the emergency global revoke. So you can see very different methods for different sort of scenarios. And then the last scenario would be what I call a kind of cleanup. So you do this anyway for whichever of those other revocation scenarios you've gone through, so emergency or selective. You're going to need to do a regular cleanups of accounts that pop up every now and then, or maybe stuff that's been missed from those first two methods, and we'll have a look at how to do those, the cleanup as well. So I think we'll move on and we'll have a look at how to perform the emergency and global revoke. So let's get stuck in. Okay, emergency global revoke. How would we go about doing this? So we want to revoke admin rights from the entire organization in pretty much as soon as we can. So, well, the first thing you need to do is we need to go and check the global settings to make sure that you have the lockdown button enabled here. And if you had any other subsettings activated, you'd need to make sure lockdown was the revoke option was set there as well. Just to give you a heads up on how this revoke admin rights button works, when it's turned on, the user that is currently logged in is going to retain their admin rights until such a time that they log out and log in again. So, or if they reboot, because obviously rebooting would mean logging in, and the revoke occurs at login. So I've set this setting here, and you can see that on the endpoint I've got a red icon, so that signifies that I'm a full admin. If I was to go to Windows settings, I would then go into, for example, you'd see under my user account that I am clearly an administrator, and this would obviously is a full administrator, it's not an emulated administrator. When admin by request revokes your admin rights, the icon would be green, and you would never see administrator here in any situation. If you do, then there's a problem. So you only see administrator under your user account if you're a permanent administrator, and your icon should be red. And actually we can go into the command prompt like so, and we can just type in net local group administrators, and we can see that our user, you can see the user is most definitely in the local admin group, and I can also just confirm that I can run, say, command prompt as admin. I get the consent prompt. Again, this is a feature of being a full administrator. So I've clearly got full admin rights. And actually, one other nice thing about admin by request when you're running in this red icon mode is the user is sort of oblivious that admin by request is installed. It doesn't impact them in any way, so they won't be seeing any admin bar request dialogues. I can do everything I need to do with my permanent admin rights, and if I go over here and the audit log, you should be able to see what I've done. So this is actually quite a nice way to do some sort of reconnaissance work to see what users are doing with their admin rights before you revoke. So before you change any way how they work on their computers, you're kind of recording, and you can see here that the user is shown in bright red as opposed to kind of a faded orange, and the bright red is another signification that the user is a permanent admin. So for example, if we go to the inventory, you will also see the user there, and it's this computer here is my demo computer, so you got the bright red. I click onto there, and then you'll see that administrator is set to yes. So everything in the inventory also can be extracted through the API, so you can get a good view on who is logged in with full admin rights from the API. And we also have a handy report which we're going to use later to do the cleanup. But if you have a look in the local admins report here, you should be able to see exactly who is an admin, and you can see here is my domain accounts. If I break that open here, you can see that that it is of course the computer. So you can see that is a user, and I'm logged in with that user, and I have my admin. So really what I've done is I've just gone into global settings, I've gone into lockdown, I put on global revoke admin rights. So really all that is left for me to do this global revoke is to log out and log in again. It's so simple as that. So I'm going to simply log out, and I'm connected to this computer using the secure remote access product, so it's going to show a kind of disconnect screen. So if I just log out or sign out, so let for that finish, and then I can reconnect. Okay, revocation is complete. The admin bar request tray icon has changed from red to green, which signifies that the user is no longer a permanent administrator. So we can go to Windows settings and just double check that to make sure that under the user's account name you no longer see administrator. And I could even have a look in under the command prompt, net local group administrators, to see that the user is no longer in the local admin group. So that means that admin bar request is now in play, and any policy configuration settings that you put in the portal for that user, whether it be global settings or in a subsetting, those are now in effect. If we go to the portal side, so actually there's some stuff in here that you may want to know as well. So for example, if we go back to the inventory list, you will see that the user's name is no longer highlighted in bright red, it's now grey. So that is an easy way that you can recognize that the user is no longer an administrator. You'll see that the administrator flag here is set to no. This stuff can all be, remember, taken from the API, so you can take all this stuff from the API. You can put that in your Power BI report or whatever. That's quite useful. The other thing that you can do also is we have an event which is this one, which is signifies when a user is downgraded. So that event can be emailed as part of an email report, or it can be pushed as a webhook to a SIEM system, for example, as well. So you can keep an eye. If you're doing an emergency revoke, you very quickly get a lot of these events coming in, and then you'll see exactly who's been revoked, who hasn't logged in, and with the scenario here is we want to try and revoke as many people as possible. One other thing I'd mention about revocation is that admin bar request, when we revoke the rights, when you uninstall a product, if you were to, for example, user wanted to uninstall it with an uninstall pin, for whatever reason, maybe they're troubleshooting and you just want to remove admin bar request as part of the equation, you can get a pin code from the portal with the portal admin. When that pin code is put in and the uninstall is commanded, because we revoked the rights, we will actually return them. Okay, so that's just an important thing you want to take into account. If you're deploying endpoints where the user is already revoked, as part of maybe you deploying out with Intune and making your users standard users, when you take admin bar requests off those endpoints, we don't put the user back in that local admin group. And the other thing as well, which is a common question I get if we go to the Windows global settings and that lockdown button is, if I turn that from revoke on to revoke off, does that kind of give users back rights? No, it doesn't. All this does, it just means that any further users that log in will no longer have their accounts revoked. So it doesn't impact any existing users. It just means that revoke feature, that revoke setting, is now not on for any new logins or any new revokes that would have occurred don't occur because that setting is now off globally. So I just thought I'd mention that as well. So really, I think that is all there is to it. You can see it's a very simple process. You just push a button, save it. Users have to log out, log in. Sometimes they may have to do an additional log out and log in, but in most cases it should be good just to do one, and then the green icon will appear, and then and the revocation event will appear in the event report, and you're all good. So that really is the quickest way to revoke admin right en masse with admin bar request. And now we're going to go and have a look at the other approach, which is the selective gradual revoke. And we'll have a look at how doing something, if you've got the luxury of a bit more time, how doing something more selectively may make for a slightly more smoother onboarding experience. But we'll look at that next. Okay, so we've done the emergency global revoke, and now we're going to move on to I'm going to show you how to do the selective gradual revoke, which means that you can control the kind of speed of revocation actually without even kind of touching the admin bar request portal at all. So let's go ahead and see how that works. Here we are again, and you can see on the left is the portal, on the right is my endpoint, and as you'll note, you'll see the red icon there signifying that the logged in user is a permanent administrator. So you can see I can elevate command prompt. You've got administrator clearly showing up here, so you can see that I'm most definitely an administrator. And if I go into the inventory, again you can see the bright red, and inside that inventory you can see that the user is indeed a full administrator. So how would we do a gradual revoke? Well, if it's not a kind of emergency, it's very possible that when you initially set up admin bar request, you may have maybe tested a couple of revoke operations, but when it comes to deploying to all users, you may have decided to turn off the revoke button so that you can deploy admin bar request, zero user impact, record the behavior of users and what they do with their admin rights, populate your audit log, maybe get some subsettings and user personas ready, but you've turned revoke off because you want to deploy admin bar request, and then you don't want the revoke to happen kind of all in one go. You want to do it kind of gradually, but the problem here is that there's just an on and off button. So if I was to hit this button on, of course, no, it doesn't mean that everyone would immediately get revoked, but the next time those users log in, which probably would be like first thing in the morning, for those users, they're all going to get revoked pretty much all at the same time when they're coming into work, when they're logging in. And if you've got like tens of thousands of users, that could be a lot of revocations going on than maybe we prefer. So I would prefer the option of doing it gradually, but then we have this single button. So what I would do, and this is my recommended approach, is I would create a subsetting to do this for me. So I would leave revoke off here, and I would create a group. So I've done that, and if I go on my server here, I think it's this one here, I've got a revoke off group, but I've also got a revoke on group. And I'm going to use this group name to create a subsetting that's going to turn revoke on for members of that group, and therefore the subsetting will be applied to those members when they get put in that group. Okay, so let's go to subsettings, and we're going to create a new subsetting. Forget all the other subsettings, they don't matter in this instance. I'm just going to create a new subsetting, and I'm going to call it ABR revoke on. Okay, I'm going to hit update, and then I'm going to, what's important now is when I create this scope for this group, that I get the name right. So it's demo-revoke-on. Okay, so demo-revoke-on. So if the user is in that group, this subsetting will apply. But there's no users in this group, so actually at the moment this subsetting is kind of meaningless. So I'm going to go and turn on the revoke feature. I'm going to override from global settings. I'm going to turn on revoke here, like so. That's done. And I can then go back to my subsetting list. And I can actually, and what I want to do is I want to move this, the order of subsettings matters, and I want this revoke on to be at the very top because I want it to hit all users. So I may have created other subsettings below, but I want to make sure that the very first rule that is run is this one, but it will only apply to members of that group. And if we expand the subsetting and do a who matches, we're going to get nothing returning because there are no members of that group. And this is the beauty of this technique, is that now, from now on, the users that get revoked are just simply members of that group. Who controls who's in that group? Well, I do. I can do that through Active Directory, or I can do that through Entra. It's just simply something, it's just simple as adding users to a group. So let's have a look, and let's just go and do that, shall we? So I'm going to go back here, I'm going to go into demo revoke on, members, add, and it's going to be demo Paul H is my test user, this one here, and hit OK, and then OK here. So obviously this is on-prem AD, it's not quite as quick as Entra, so I may have to do a GP update force. Just wait for that to finish. Good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit the about, which will refresh and do a little check-in for me. So if I then hit go back over to the inventory, go to the computer, and then groups. Under the user, can you see now the group is now there? So if I go to the, well, there's two ways you can do this. I can get a subsetting, and I can see that the ABR revoke group subsetting is applied, and there's always that subsetting list where I can break it out, and I can go who matches, and now I'm going to get my demo computer. That's perfect. So I've just literally added one user to the group. I didn't touch the portal at all, so it's simply a case now of this user just has to log out and then log in again, and then they'll get revoked, just as we did before. But just this method is a really nice way of just onboarding users or even groups really gradually without actually touching any part of the portal. It's up to you to decide how fast or how slow you move users to that group, and they'll gradually become members. The subsetting will apply, they'll get revoked, and it's smooth. Anyway, so I'm going to log out of this user now, and we're going to see the revocation process again. And there's our green icon. So again, we can go and have a look in that local admin group, net local group administrators. So we should not be in that, which we're not. And we can do go to settings and have a quick look to see, just to make sure that the user is not a permanent admin, which he is not. Perfect. And I can go to the inventory and I see my user is in grey and is not an administrator. And then finally we can go to the event report, which will show us that the user has been if I go to all events informational, you can see that the user was downgraded like so. Very good. Perfect. So that really is a kind of excellent way to revoke gradually, and again, it can be as fast or as slow as you want. You can add users to the group, you can add groups to the group. Just whoever becomes a member of that group that you created and you put a subsetting on in the portal gets their rights revoked at the next logon. So that is the selective gradual revoke, and we have one more scenario, which is the cleanup, and we'll move on to that right now. Okay, so we've done the emergency global revoke and the selective gradual revoke. Finally, we're going to take a look at cleanup, which is different from the other two scenarios in that the other two involves using that revoke on button in the global or subsettings, whereas the cleanup method actually involves using either the local admin report or revoking users directly from the inventory, their computer object in the inventory. And the cleanup method actually sees the user account being revoked pretty much instantly, so it does not require a user to kind of log out and log in again. And that's important because for cleaning up, we not only do we want to look at revoking accounts that users log into, but also accounts that maybe users don't log into, and we'll have a look at that now. Okay then, let us have a look at the last scenario, which is cleanup. So you performed your emergency global revoke because you want to get rid of admin accounts really quickly, or you've finished your selective gradual revoke, so you've completed that and you're pretty confident that you don't have any more users logging in to computers that are local admins. In fact, you would know because you would see in the inventory a nice list of users that were all grey. If you had any reds, then you'd know that they were either genuine admins or they were, there was some other reason why they hadn't been revoked. And this is the thing with the cleanup. This enables you to catch those outliers. And in particular, it allows you to spot local admin accounts that users are not logging in with. So it's possible that before you deployed admin by request, users might have had like a ADM account or backdoor account on their system that was a local admin that they don't use to log in with. And then, admin by request comes along, revokes their logged in account, their domain user account or their enter account. So they're not logging in as an admin, but that account in the local admin group, that admin account is still there because we don't revoke that with the standard lockdown revoke button. But there is a way to do it, and that's what we're going to cover now, and that's what we're going to use for cleanup. So there's two ways to do this, and there's slightly different ways of different sort of outcomes of doing this. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the local admin report, which is this one here. So the local admin report is a really great report because it shows you on one page every single local admin group and user in your entire tenant. So if you're being audited and the auditor kind of sidles up and says, hey, I want to know how many local admins there are in your entire organization, you don't need to sweat. You just click one button, there's the report, and you're done. Hopefully all you will see and the auditor will see will be these groups. So these are the groups that every computer would have if it was entry joined or on-prem joined. Now, this is my demo environment, and you can see there are some other users here that we should probably revoke. And one other thing as well is that this report only shows enabled accounts. So if you see any instances of built-in accounts like administrator, those really should be disabled according to best practice. So that's another thing. So we can't disable an account from the report here, but we do show that an account is enabled because it does show up on the report. So anyway, if you had been paying attention earlier in the previous segments, you might have seen that in my endpoint here, and I'm logged in, by the way, as a non-admin because we've done that revoke in the previous video. Let me just start command prompt, and if I go net local group administrators, you will see a cheeky backdoor account has been put on the system, and because I'm not logging in with that backdoor account, that revoke feature in lockdown does not catch it. So we need to find a way to get that account out. And if you look in the local admins report, you can see here is the backdoor account. If I kind of expand that, it'll show me that my my endpoint, which is this one here, Win11AD, indeed is the computer that has that account on it. So the remove button is going to remove this user from this local admin account. And using the report, it's not actually instantaneous. You have the option to cancel before the command is actually executed on the endpoint. So I'll just run you through what kind of happens. So the first thing is I'm going to hit the remove button, and that is going to change from remove to cancel. When that, it'll take a little while to run. And if I was to, there it goes, just doing it, maybe hit a refresh to just probably just caching or something. Come on. So you will see the button change to, there we go, change to cancel. So if I do a repeat of that command, you see the backdoor account is still there. And the reason for that is that using the report, the command doesn't get sent instantly. The endpoint still has to check in to get to kind of receive that command for the revoke to be performed. Now the endpoint will check in whenever the user tries to perform an elevation on their endpoint, or does it kind of on a schedule as well regularly. So it wouldn't take long for that account to be revoked, but you do get a period of time where you get the option to cancel the command. So you cancel the revoke. Again, the revoke never happens because you cancel it. Okay, so if I was to force a check-in on the endpoint, so if I just go to about, that does a force settings kind of fetch, and I then repeat the command, you'll then see that the backdoor account has now been removed from the group. And then if I go refresh, you'll see that well, it'll be on the restore tab now because we've actually successfully revoked that account, and it'll change. Cancel will go because we can't cancel it because it's occurred, and then I'll basically need to go on the restore rights tab to then go and restore it. So let's just click on that. Okay, so you can see there is the account. I've revoked it, and also I'll show you, it's interesting, if I click on the computer in question, you can see in events, you can see that I have revoked. So there's a log for revoking. So I did the command, and then here's an event saying that it was successfully downgraded. So I can see as a portal admin that I ran the command, and that the user the command has reached the endpoint and revoked the user. The user is no longer an admin, and of course if I go into local admins here, I get confirmation that this account has indeed been revoked. So back on that local admin report again from the report, it's not instantaneous because there is there's a requirement for the endpoint to check in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hit the restore button, and again we get that cancel command. So if I hit this, you see that the command hasn't been run, the restore hasn't been run. I perform the check-in forcibly, and then you'll see the account is now back again. Okay, and then if I was to go back on the local admin report, and we have the backdoor account is back again. So and the nice thing here, and I think the reason why it's not instantaneous, is because from this report, if you have a situation where you have a single account, maybe a generic account that IT legacy has put on every single computer in the entire organization, you can actually with that, as long as the account is the same account name, with a single button push, you can revoke all of those computers in one go. Now, obviously, sending a command to all those computers in one go instantly would be not great if it was thousands. So therefore, the delayed approach is more sensible, because obviously endpoints are going to pick up that command at different times. So it's a much more scalable way of handling the revoke using this report. So let's go and have a look at the instant method. So if you spot an account on an endpoint and you just want it to be gone like right away, there's a way to do that. And that is if you go to the local admin button here on the left, and you just click this button here. So let's just see how quick this is. So if I go, you can see like that. I'm going to repeat the command. The account is there. I'm going to hit the button like so. Okay. And again, it's gone like seconds. Okay. That's pretty impressive. And if I just refresh that page, it will change from cancel to restore again. So if I just repeat that and then do a restore, the minute that command, there we go, back here again, and it's back again. And you can see also that we get a pretty much real-time log of each of those operations. So that's a very rapid way to remove, strategically one thing, go in there and zap one account right away, do it from the inventory object of that computer using local admins on this page. If you want to revoke en masse a load of accounts that are local accounts that users don't log in with, then do it from the report, because it's one button, but it's going to be a lot easier for you to click that one button to remove many accounts than it is to go through the inventory here and click on each one to do it instantaneously. Okay, so I think that's pretty much the cleanup, and I guess we'll do a quick sum up. So that's about it. We've covered the 3 scenarios which I think are most common for revoking. So the kind of emergency global revoke situation, selective gradual revoke, and then that cleanup of individual accounts. I hope you found this video useful. Please subscribe to the channel, like the videos. It makes you feel good about creating them. So anyway, hopefully I'll see you soon. And for now, cheerio.